All right, guys, I've got an amazing guest here. Timmy McCall, or Timothy would be his official name here. But I've known Timmy since high school. He's been a stud ever since high school. It's been awesome to watch him as he killed it in high school wrestling. He killed it in football as well. And then you just went on to wrestle at Wisconsin on scholarship, I believe. And
Yep.
then you came back and you started wrestling just post college. And then after that, you're now coaching at NC State, which is a great college for wrestling as well. So Timmy, you're just doing awesome things, man. You love the outdoors. You love to get out and fish, and of course, you have an awesome looking family. So you're just killing it at life, man. So, uh, who are you? I guess for the listeners, and in a nutshell, who's Timmy McCall?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. Been able to keep up with you and follow you, and it seems like you got some cool things going on as well. And then it's pretty cool to see, um, you know, boys who grew up together go off and do things. So, but yeah, I tell everybody Tim McCall, but once you get to know me, everybody calls me Timmy. So. Um, but yeah, man, I'm hometown hero, I guess you can say. Grew up in Hope Mills, North Carolina, smaller town right outside of Fayetteville or Fort Bragg area for the military people watching. And yeah, been in sports my whole life. Been playing football, baseball, wrestling. But a young age of 4 really took to wrestling. And I've had some ups and downs in my life, some life-changing injuries, an accident whenever I was younger, and wrestling continued to be my rock. So I grew so much because of that sport, and so yeah, high school won a state title, took second my senior year to the guy I beat the year before. Um, Two guys who were very tough. He went off, wrestled at Arizona State. I went off, wrestled at the University of Wisconsin. Wrestled there for 5 years, redshirted my freshman year. And then once I graduated, moved back to North Carolina, joined the RTC here at NC State. Continue that journey of trying to make a world and Olympic team, which is really cool. Got to travel all around the world and wrestle in different countries, different arenas, meet some amazing people. And then about 4 years ago, thought I'd try my way at coaching. So this journey's been pretty cool. I was a volunteer assistant for 2 years, and then the past 2 years I've been on staff full time, and it's fun. It's fun. It could be a lot sometimes, but it's fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, you gave your life story there. So now I don't have anything to talk about. We're done. No, I'm kidding. I want to delve into a couple things here because first of all, you wrestled, but not only did you wrestle, there's a couple of weight classes that for me, I never wrestled, but watching, whether it be UFC, for those people out there listening that watch UFC, but wrestling at the 189 weight class, that's light heavyweight, isn't it? In
Just
UFC, I guess. But yeah.
yeah.
So that 189 weight class is where you walked around at a stocky 200, 205 probably during the year. But so Tim here was just always, I remember always seeing you were dedicated in school. You were in the AP classes with us. I remember calculus really well. That was an awesome class. And the class, not so much, but the people in it, it was a great class.
Yeah.
And, but we, just watching how you struggle through football and wrestling. And I say struggle because you push yourself more than most people would, to the point where you won a state championship in wrestling at the 189 weight class. That class for me is a good mix of speed and power that just keeps things flowing and really interesting. I love watching that weight class. And then you continued on to do big things. I mean, you wrestled at the University of Wisconsin, which is a great place to go for wrestling, competed against some of the top in the world. And then you continued on to do those things. But even before that, you have a really interesting, you kind of brushed over it, but you went through a lot as a young kid. Was it you were 4 or 5 when you had that accident?
Yeah, I was eight. I
8.
was a little button still yet.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So Tim here had a life altering accident that for a lot of people and for a lot of parents out there listening, I mean, I can only imagine what your parents went through when you had that accident and the pain and struggle that they dealt with, seeing you as such a young kid with so much potential,
Mhm.
having to overcome these struggles. But do you mind kind of walking us through maybe what happened there and how you were able to use wrestling to come out of that and accomplish not just normal things, but you've accomplished some really great things in your, are you 30 like I am, or I can't remember, you're
Yeah,
right around that age.
30,
Yeah.
30.
So you're still a young buck. I remember when 30 used to look so old, right? When we were like, oh man, we're just getting started. But you've accomplished a lot. So let's go back to that incident. Maybe walk us through what happened and how you pushed through that.
Yeah. 8 years old was the normal thing for my family. We would go, and my sister and I would go ride go-karts. And this particular day, it was a Sunday, went and rode go-karts, and probably wasn't the safest thing, but there was a circle, and in the middle of that circle there were cars that were just parked. We would just go around those cars in a big loop. And my sister and I, we were kind of racing, not really, but I looked back to see where she was at. As I looked back, I turned the wheel and went right underneath a dump truck. Um, Hit that back bumper, um, and hit my head back. Got a burn. It was pretty crazy. So just the list of injuries coming through that, and you can't really tell, but um, I had a cut that went up my face, nearly cut my ear off down the side of my neck, and then on this side I had a burn. So whenever it pinned me back, I burnt my forehead on my own engine. It pinned me back so far of my go-kart. I broke my jaw in 3 places, 3 plates in my jaw, knocked all my teeth out. Um, I cut all the nerves to the side of my face. So, at that time I couldn't feel anything. So I didn't even know I was hurt. My mom, she's going crazy and screaming, and I was like, Mom, just hold my hand, I'll be okay. Just hold my hand. And whenever she went to hold my hand, I noticed that I had blood everywhere. And my mom, one of her friends, grabbed some rags and was holding those tight on me, trying to keep the bleeding and stuff down. And the EMS came probably like 30, 45 minutes late, and rushed me off to the hospital. They stopped the bleeding, but they couldn't do anything with me there. So they shipped me up to UNC Chapel Hill, to the hospital up there. And yeah, I spent almost a month there in the hospital. They put all my teeth back in. They, like I said, they put some plates in my jaw. I have a weight in my eye that helps me, close or my eyelid helps me close my eye. So yeah, I got pieced back together. I had to learn how to walk. I had to learn how to talk. Um, and I still struggle with some things, since that time. So it was pretty tough. But a lot of people would say, well, why weren't you wearing a helmet? And it's a good question. We had them. I just didn't have it on at the time. And crazy things, the doctor was like, if you had a helmet on, it probably would have broke your neck. And you talk about a blessing in a nutshell. Like, it's weird to say that, but it would have caught that bottom of the helmet on that bar, and it would have bent me back even further.
Man.
So yeah, man, it was tough, and the doctors were like, it's weird to see how such a young uh, man would respond to, or young boy, I should say, respond to such an accident. And I think that's kind of where wrestling comes into play. In a way, like I was driven to get back and walk again, talk again, listen to my nurses and whatnot. But I think there was just a different kind of fight in me through it all. Like I could have been, a lot different of a situation, but I look at it as like, yeah, it's just not the end of the world. I still fight through it, and yeah, I think wrestling had a lot to do with that. I remember being in the hospital, and there was a tournament in Chapel Hill, and um, a nurse came in and she goes, "Your family's here," and at the time I don't think I could talk, but kind of waved or let them in. And come to find out, the whole wrestling tournament came to the hospital, and was like there was lines wrapped around the uh, the hospital hallways to come into the room. And at 8 years old, I had a wrestling community that backed me. Um, my mom, being a single parent, financially it was hard. She lost her job, being in the hospital so long, and wrestling team moms would bring my sister up in between, school and whatnot, and it was just it was cool, like that. I know it's weird to say that, but sometimes in chaos and hardship, you kind of you learn that people we care for each other, we love each other, we'll go to bat for each other in the wrestling community. Man, it was pretty cool to see. Um, Nowadays, be around my family or friends and coaches, old coaches, they would tell stories, and like it's hard not to like come to tears because I was just a young boy, and just to see like how people embraced myself, but just my family, and being there for them, you know. I can't imagine that now being uh, a new father. So yeah, it's my injury story in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, I mean and I appreciate you sharing that, being willing to share that on here, because it's something that really, who knows what would have happened if that hadn't happened in your life, but at the same time, you're able to provide to a lot of people out there kind of that inspiration, and I'm sure that you don't share that story obviously very often. You probably keep that pretty close, even when people ask maybe what's going on with the scar on your neck or whatever. But you weren't one to walk around and ask for sympathy, and that's something that you took that obstacle and you ran with it, right? You ran it over, and then you kept going. And it's awesome to think that an 8-year-old, like I've got an 8-year-old, and it's crazy to think something like that happening to him. I joke about my wife wanting to wrap my son up in bubble wrap and not let him do anything because,
Yeah.
boys are crazy, man. They don't want to listen for nothing. But uh man, it's just you took that, and then it's awesome to hear that community that you had around you. Not a lot of people have that. So obviously you had made an impact up to that point, whether it be with your work ethic or whatever it may be. And the fact that so many people were willing to make that trip to come see you, I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
It also goes to speak for your mom, what kind of mother you had. The fact that she was willing to, I can imagine that conversation of her telling her boss to basically screw off because her son's more important than the job. And, I could see that. I know your mom well enough,
Yeah.
not crazy well, but well enough to know that's probably how the conversation went. A few expletives and
Sure. Yeah.
yeah,
She took care of her baby.
exactly. And so you took that, you ran with it. And then now, I mean, so you went through, you obviously you wrestled, you stuck with wrestling. I remember one year, I can't remember which year it was, but you had gotten injured. I think it was during football,
Yep.
and you were around on crutches, and you were concerned about it messing with your wrestling season. And then I think wasn't there a year that you gave football up because of wrestling?
Yeah. Yeah. So my sophomore year of high school, playing football, we were a pretty tough team at the time. I don't know if you remember.
Oh yeah.
We were undefeated, third round of playoffs. Um, I got hit. I played defense as a linebacker. And was doing very, very well. It's crazy just to talk about some of the stats that I had that year. and thought I was a man, but yeah, got hit by a lineman. It was weird. Couldn't straighten my leg out. It's like something's wrong. I tore my meniscus, and I remember going to the doctor, and I was like, "Hey, I'm still young. I trust you to do whatever I need for the future, me." And he was like, "Well, we'll go in and we'll repair it, and you'll see meniscus tears. They'll repair it, or sometimes they'll go in and just shave it." But they went in, they repaired it, and I had to sit out my sophomore year of wrestling, and that was very tough for me. As a sophomore, I was second in the state. Had a lot of dreams and aspirations that I wanted to achieve, and yeah, I had that road of recovery. I had to sit and watch all my friends, coaches, and whatnot go through a season without me, and yeah, I told football, I was like, "Hey, I love you, but I'm a wrestler through and through." Um, and it wasn't taken well. Was not taken
Mhm.
well at all, especially in small town football when you have a pretty tough team. Kind of got disowned by our football coaches a little bit,
Mhm.
um, but came back my junior year, won a state title, and I was perfectly fine with the decision that I made. Focusing on wrestling. And later on, I went to college, and I feel like I very well could have had an opportunity if I wanted to continue playing football. Um, but I was like, I'm in too much. Let me just
Yep.
focus on wrestling right now. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I was on the JV team at the time, but I do remember that year that we had, the varsity squad was doing really well in the state. And I want to say wasn't it Ryan was our quarterback?
uh,
Um,
at that time, yep,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And he was getting, looked at by some high level colleges and then we had, some of the standout players like you were the linebacker that you didn't want to look at as a running back coming through the line. Like you were the guy that you didn't want to get hit by. And then what was the guy's name that got recruited by Clemson? He had the long dread, Lamont. He was was he cornerback or strong safety?
um, it's a good question.
Because I remember looking up to him too, and I got to hang out with him a little bit. He was a headstrong Vikings fan and
Yeah,
Minnesota Vikings guy. Um, and we had a great team that year. And I remember looking up to the varsity squad and just saying, man, next year I'm going to be on that team. And then I saw kind of you going through, and that was kind of where I got to know you. I think was around sophomore year, and seeing you go through that decision making just from the outside of having to choose between that football and wrestling that you've loved so much, and then football that you're obviously killing it at, and have great potential both ways. And then just again seeing how the coaches kind of disowned you in a way, just kind of stop. Like I remember you being buddy buddy with them, and then all of a sudden, like you weren't hanging out with the football guys anymore, and that's rough to see. That's
yeah,
definitely a hard decision for what was sophomores, what, 15 years old, maybe 16.
16, yeah.
That's a hard decision for an adult to make, let alone a 15-year-old, you
Yeah.
know, while you're recovering from an injury, you know. So that you've kind of had a life of making hard decisions, man, and getting over some crazy injuries.
Yeah, I another one I had too. My senior year, doing very well. My goals were to get on that podium that senior year, and Big Tens. 2 weeks or a week and a half before NCAA's tore my hamstring. Uh, Doctors told me or at the place, the trainers were like, "Yeah, it's tore off the bone. You're not wrestling. You can kiss your career goodbye." And looked at the coaches and was like, "No, it's not going to happen." We went back home. I got cleared. Um, Doctor said, "You're probably not going to be able to do anything, but I'm gonna clear you anyway because it's your senior year." And I went and wrestled at NCAA's with a torn hamstring, and got very close to achieving my goal that I set out. I was one match away, and it's always those thoughts of if I was healthy, what if would have happened, But it was a blessing nonetheless. I saw what I was capable of if I just continued to be gritty, and to keep pushing forward. And I think that's something that looking back at sometimes is hard to swallow, but it made me who I am. So
Exactly. And you can't really, those are things that are kind of out of your control, and you took what you could control and you ran with it. And the fact that you still got second, that's still, I know that's hard being at as high of a level as you are, to accept that. But the fact that you even wrestled after that, a lot of people would just be like, okay, well, I guess I got to recover now. You didn't take that and just go with it.
yeah. It's I mean, that's, again, wrestling is one of those sports where you talk about no handouts. No one can go out on the mat and do it for you. I mean, sometimes you just got to say, hey, I'm as good as I'm going to get right now, and I, I'd rather throw my hat in the ring and see what happens, and I did. I think yeah, that's one beautiful thing about wrestling. It's you have to take responsibility for everything,
Mm-hmm.
and that's failure and that's success. And up to that point, I felt like I was doing all the right things, and there's a feeling of like I deserve this, and hard lessons are learned. Only thing that are for sure in life is death and taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta know that, but it still doesn't mean that you don't stack those odds in your favor, by doing the right things. And I felt like I could still scrap at the end of the day, and I looked probably a little funny out there wrestling, but I did what I had to do. So.
Exactly. And so then you went on, you wrestled at Wisconsin on scholarship. You redshirted your first year. And then again, Wisconsin's in remind me, that's Big Ten, right? That's a rough, I mean, that's a lot of competition right there, the Big Ten.
Yeah.
You wrestled against some of I mean, that's like Cornhuskers. You think of, Nebraska Cornhuskers, they're in the Big Ten, right?
Yeah. Iowa, Penn State,
Mm-hmm.
Michigan,
All those
Ohio.
farm boys.
Yeah, yeah. And going there, it's kind of crazy. I'm not going to lie. People are like, "How'd you get from North Carolina to Wisconsin?" And I had some ties through coaches at the time, and went out there, loved my visit, and I went from being the North Carolina boy. We were in a class of 12, that 2010 or 2010 class. Well, we're not saying 2020 anything, but yeah. And yeah, became a captain of my freshman class all the way through me graduating. And was I like accolades wise, like was I the best? No. Um, but I had the drive to be the best, and I think that was something that I took pride in. Like, there's a lot of people around me who've probably done more, probably been. I mean, in the Midwest, these guys they have wrestling rooms in their basements. Like, and they all have brothers they've been wrestling with, like, get practices in after dinner, and it's I didn't have that in North Carolina, but I still had a drive, had the athletic ability, and it's like, hey, let's do this. If I'm 1,000 miles away from home, I need to get my hand raised. So
Exactly. Yeah, you weren't out there, in your free time wrestling the cattle and doing
no,
all that stuff.
yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's great. It was cool watching you go there, and again, like, just someone from Hope Mills that, we always say Fayetteville, which kind of nowadays too is almost like saying Portland, Oregon, but it's like it's just it's a small town, and seeing someone be able to go out and accomplish so many great things. And again, you're so humble. Like, you're Christian, you take your faith seriously, you take your family seriously, and you're just extremely humble about everything that you accomplish. You don't go around, wearing all of your accolades. People that look at you maybe or meet you on the street will just, I mean, they'll notice you're a strong dude, right? They're probably like, okay, he goes to the gym. but they don't recognize that you're a world-class wrestler, you know, and so and all the things that you've accomplished and overcome to get to that point. So in all of that, you know, a large part of the audience also is into the outdoors. And I haven't had a lot of people that are fishermen on the podcast, but I love bass fishing. That's top water fishing, and then out here fly fishing. I don't know if you got into fly fishing when you went to Wisconsin or anything like that. Yeah. But so I love top water fishing because it's very interactive. You know, bass fishing is definitely up there, that the largemouth bass fishing. But so you've knocked out some hogs, you know, out there on the water, but talk to us a little bit about the fishing and how that has incorporated into your life, because maybe it's a de-stressor or you just enjoy it. You love being outside, whatever. Just talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, so wrestling obviously is my love. I started fishing. My uncles took me fishing whenever I was younger. I would say probably around like, I don't know, 5th, 6th grade. And I was like, this is sweet. This is awesome. And we moved to a new house that was right by a pond. I don't know if you remember in our neighborhood, there's a few ponds. One that probably got cleaned out a couple times, but I was just, you know, a young boy at the time. But did a lot of bass fishing and stuff growing up. And if you ever look on a map at Madison, where I went to school, UW Madison, it's a straight surrounded by 2 big lakes. There's actually 4 there, and I was like, this is sweet. I can get some fishing in and whatnot, you know. But what you kind of mentioned or hit at, like, for me, that's my peace. That's where I get away. That's where I get to relax a little bit, and just no matter if you're catching fish or not, you know, they say a day on the lake not catching anything is better than a day at work. Yeah, I remember whenever I was in college, I'd bring my fishing gear to practice. As soon as I get out of practice, I'm heading out to a lake. You know, I do the same thing here. Bring my kayaks to work. As soon as I get off work, go head out. There's a lake here on campus on Lake Raleigh. It's pretty sweet. And I'll hit that place up during the summertime, spring for sure. Man, bass, it's like, it's too fun. Too fun. But yeah, it's sweet, man. It's a good, like, pastime, just way to like ease your mind. And for myself as a coach, and one thing I haven't mentioned in all of this was my involvement in ministry. You take on a lot of people's problems, and sometimes for me, I don't give that to other people. I don't allow people to take my problems. But whenever I go out, it's where I can kind of decompress and process things out on the water. And everyone's like, you never take me fishing. You promise you're going to take me fishing. And, you know, a lot of times my intention is, you know, is to take him out, but I go on a whim, you know, like I need to get away. And it's, it's a way for me to kind of feed my own soul a little bit, you know.
No, definitely. I definitely understand that, because I love telling people, hey, we'll go out and we'll go hunting, or, you know, I'll show you this spot or that spot. And it just happens to be that it works out that today I can go for a couple hours, and I just happen to go, you know. And then of course, you know, I definitely get that. You get those messages. Oh, you said you're going to take, well, yeah, I will take you. But today, like, I really didn't have a schedule or plan to go out and do it, but it's what I needed today. And sometimes you can't get that. It's funny, because I've seen something recently where it was like, you become an adult when you realize that grandpa telling you to hush while you're fishing because you're going to scare the fish, it wasn't for the fish. It was because he needed some peace.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Whenever you're out there, sometimes that's the last thing you want to do is like be talking, you know. I usually put my phones away. Only time I bring my phones out is when I'm taking pictures, you know. But other than that, I don't answer calls. I got Apple Watch now that helps me. I can talk into my watch, send a text message, see when dinner's ready or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, I try to just enjoy the peace, the calmness of just being out there. And then there's I mean, like you being in hunting, like there's kind of a little bit of competitive edge there. I'm trying to figure something out, you know. Where am I going to find that big one? Um, you know, and you're taking in everything around you and trying to figure out that puzzle. Um, the last thing you want is you're trying to figure out a puzzle and someone's asking you questions about something else. You know,
Mm-hmm. Or
um,
snagging their line on everything. That's what I'm good for. I'm
my wife, I think she was probably 6 months pregnant, and she wanted to go out fishing with me. And this particular day, I caught zero fish. I spent majority of my time getting her line out of the trees, and she caught three, one nice sized bass. And it was as soon as I got her line out of the tree, she threw out probably, I don't know, 15, 20 feet away from us, and got a nice sized bass. And I was kind of butthurt, not gonna lie, you know. But you know, the beauty in that is those were moments we got to spend together. Um, and even though I had to take the fish off her line, I saw her face when she pulled out, you know, a 3 or 4 pound bass, which is decent size. And man, she was so excited. And that's all I need to see, you know.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. When we went out to Holt Lake, I don't know if you've ever been out to Smithfield, Holt Lake area. But we've got a family lake house, and granddaddy always takes us out there to go fishing. And again, until I was an adult, I never really understood why he spent so much time fishing and why he didn't want kids to go with him necessarily. It wasn't they didn't love us, but he needed his time because he was going to be with us all day driving the boat for skiing, you know, wakeboarding, all that other stuff. And so he wanted his moment of peace before breakfast. And so going out with him, and we took my oldest daughter out, and she was, I mean, she caught this big old hog. And like granddaddy and me are like casting in all the best spots. We're like, oh, he's gonna be right here by the stump, and you know, and then she just casted like open water and pulls in this big old hog, and I was like, oh my gosh! And her look, like she's like, how do I touch it? What do I do? Like,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's a lot of fun for sure.
it
Now,
is.
do you prefer top water or do you kind of mix it up?
I mix it up. Um, Top water, I feel like I'm still learning. And I've had some good experiences, but um, I feel like top water is like the most exciting. And whenever you get that hit and you see it, like you watch it happen, your heart just sinks, you
Mhm.
know. And then there's a part of you that's like, don't screw this up, don't screw
Yeah.
this up, yank it out, you know. And I've where I fish at most of the time here, there's just spot just filled with lilies, and you can go in there with a frog and just, man, during the right time of the year, you can have a field day. Um, and I've tried plenty of times going in there, and it's been fun. It's been fun. I'm not gonna lie, but for the majority of my time, like I I uh, I fish with a 6 inch rubber worm. Um, and I don't know. It's like I always have the intentions of trying something new whenever I go out, and then I always, you know, fall back to that plan, and never fails me.
Yeah.
Uh, and I, depending on what the environment's like, you know, I'll change up colors and whatnot, but or how I'm depth and whatnot that I'm fishing at. But yeah, it's been my bread and butter. It's been my bread and butter.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, I agree with you that top water is kind of the fun when you hear just the sucking of that, when it just
Yeah.
sucks the water in when the bass comes in, those big old mouth. It's a lot of fun for sure. Um, there's some good lakes around here. People have been trying to get me into ice fishing. I don't have the setup that I realized real quick that people that enjoy ice fishing is because they have a big old tent. They've got buddy heaters. They've got the drills to get the holes in, and they've got all kinds of food and snacks and drinks that they're out there taking care of. So it's not even the fishing part, that they're really enjoying. And so I haven't quite gotten into that. I've got some buddies that always pull out some big fish, but it's just it's not the same for me.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife's family, she's from Wisconsin, and that's what they talk about all the time. And in my 5 years of living in Wisconsin, I've never done ice fishing.
Yep.
And I'm kind of on the same board as you. Like, how do you enjoy being out on ice?
Yep.
But yeah, they have their little fishing shanties, and with the heater in there. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm like, some people make fires on these things. I'm like, fire
Mm-hmm.
and ice. I'm not the smartest man in the world, but I still think those go together. But at the end of the day, you realize they're probably out there with a nice 6-pack, just hanging out and catching fish. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to try it eventually whenever things slow down. But winter for me is wrestling season. So, and we don't have any lakes that freeze over down here in the
Yeah.
south. Yeah, it takes a different breed,
Yeah.
that much.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then what's the other thing too that waterfowl. That's
Mm,
another thing that I haven't gotten into just because, and I've talked to a lot of people, and again, I'm kind of getting this concept of it's kind of social hour for the boys, where you're out there, you're just having a good time and you're all bundled up, and if the ducks happen to come in or whatever bird you're going after happens to come in, you bring some home. But I'd rather, like, we were just trudging around yesterday in thigh deep snow up these mountains. We went about 6-7 miles yesterday going after elk. And like, for me, that's a lot of fun. That's accomplishing stuff. Even if I don't get anything, that's like, I'm seeing the animals, I'm chasing, it's active, that's for me, that's kind of how it, again, going back to bass fishing, you're active, you're casting, you're bringing it in, or fly fishing, which I've learned a little bit about out here. I'm by no means any kind of expert, but that top water aspect again of watching the trout, which flies work, and just that constant action of bringing it in, casting it out. It's a lot of fun. But being active for me is kind of what gets me in. What I love doing in the outdoors. But
for sure. I think, and no matter like what you prefer, I think there's something special about being outdoors, and really just being able to take in what God has made. I think that's the biggest thing where people can't really put a finger on it, but I think that's it. If you get down to it, it's like this feels natural at the end of the day. And yeah, man, I've watched some hunting videos, and I get fired up watching it. What's the one? I think my wife got mad at me because this came on to Netflix. Is it Meat Eater?
yeah,
Man, I watched every episode probably 2 or 3 times. And just I love the idea of hunting what I eat, and that's it's a kind of from farm to table
mm-hmm.
mentality. I know I got to harvest this. I know what goes into uh, this meat, and that's kind of the cool thing of like again being in touch with nature. You know.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a whole different world, and that's why I stayed out west. I was on the verge of moving back to North Carolina because there's just nothing like Southern culture. Just the people out there, the environment. You're surrounded by wildlife. I mean, you literally can't drive down the highway and see the other side because there's trees.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you get into the mountains out here, like, it's just a whole nother world of just public land, We're gonna have to get you out here on the elk hunt because I bet you'd love it.
Yep.
But have you ever shot a bow?
I have not to take down any game. No,
Do you own a bow?
I do not. I do not own a
Hmm.
bow.
We're gonna have to get you in that because you kind of have that same mindset of like shooting guns is fun, going hunting that way is fun, but that was a big thing for me. What I got away from I guess the tree stand hunting in North Carolina or blinds, because I didn't like the idea of there being shooting lanes and me holding a rifle. And I mean, if you're good enough, you're proficient enough with a rifle, it's pretty much chip shot. And for me, now people out there don't take offense to that, right? But with a bow, there's a whole nother level of that competitiveness. You're overcoming, am I anchoring right? Am I pulling through the string right? Is that arrow flight right? Are there branches in the way? Like there's so much more that goes into shooting out of a tree stand than when you're rifle hunting. So, and then, but on top of that, you can shoot your bow every single day. You can't shoot your rifle every day. And you can go into your garage, and even if it's not for distance, you're just getting some reps in, it's meditative, like just being able to focus in on your bow. So I that's something that I guarantee you'd fall in love with. So we're gonna have to get you hooked on that.
I love that. I love that. I've done a little bit of. I I've never went out. I remember growing up, one of my coaches, Coach Jim Hall, he was a sniper in the military. So guns, arrows, whatever you name it, and he took us out in the backyard and we were shooting bows, and man, I was like, this is pretty sweet, you know. But in that, I didn't understand the power of a bow, and he kind of explained things to me a little bit more, like this. I know it's not a rifle or a shotgun, or you may hear the big bang as you pull the trigger, but yet there's a lot of power going through that arrow, you know. And then yeah, I think that's sweet. Like I'm not gonna lie to you, and a lot of me not hunting is me just being busy all the time. You know, like if we have alumni here that are like, man, I could take you out. You know, we can go some bucks, turkey, whatever. Like, and I'm like, man, that'd be sweet. I'm like, I gotta find that time. You know, but
Exactly.
I think I'm up for it, man. You let me know, and we'll plan something around it. Like
Yeah,
I'm
we'll have to schedule out in a couple years. We'll get you out here on the elk hunt and get you
yeah.
shooting a bow before then. But how's September for you? Is that pretty busy season?
It's not actually. It's
Perfect. That's the
preseason.
best time to go after elk.
Yeah, yeah, it's preseason for us. It's not like too crazy. Guys are just getting into school, so you know it's kind of I don't know, pretty slow at that point. We don't want to overwhelm them right away. So
Exactly. Yeah, that's when, man, and that's the other thing too. Like elk just are on a whole nother level. Like deer are awesome. Mule deer are amazing. First time I ever saw a mule deer after coming from whitetails, I was like, man, like who let the horses out? And why do those horses have antlers? You know, like
huge.
they're
Yeah.
big. They're big. But then you see an elk and then you hear an elk bugle. There is nothing else. Like you will be hooked for life. Like those elk are they're just majestic, right? But yeah, we'll have to definitely organize something, get you out here for that, because that'd be amazing. So let's see here. I'm just trying to think if there's anything. Is there anything that you'd like to share that I haven't brought up at this point?
To be honest, I don't can't think of too much. I mean, we've circled through a
Yeah.
lot of my
Let's talk about families. Let's talk about that. All right. So how do you balance your fairly new father, which
Mhm.
congratulations on that as well. That in and of itself is a challenge. There's a lot of things that men don't necessarily discuss. There's a guy on social media. He's I think it's Tired Dad, and he
Mhm.
puts out a lot of the things that men don't necessarily talk about, but all of those pressures that maybe you wake up in the morning, you're like, man, was I a good dad today? Did I maybe yell at my kids? Did I maybe put them in timeout too much? Did I expect too much? Things like that aren't really talked about, that we want to be. There's a pressure that we put on ourselves, at least the good dads do, of wanting to be better, wanting to put our kids in a position that they'll have success, or at least the means to be able to be successful, even more so than ourselves. So as being a recently new father, what are some things that maybe you've noticed that have changed in your life from going from, single to married to married with a child?
Yeah, wow, some deep questions there. Deep questions. I'll start out with um, what molded me to be who I am, and what I mean by that is I never met my dad. Never met my dad. Like I said, single mom, and um, what you learn in that as an African American male, some people will say, well, if you're missing this piece, then you're supposed to be like this, and this. And all my life, I thought that, like, nope, that's not my story. And um, I think being in a position, first getting married and understanding that I'm going to be a faithful husband to somebody, I took seriously, and that's through thick and thin, through ups and downs, it's through everything. And then you add a child into that, and man, it's tough. It's tough, and um, I though there's a child, you never want to lose sight of your first love, which is your wife. And I, through the pregnancy process, was trying to be there for my wife and be not get ahead of myself, not think too much of what the child's going to be like and what we need here. Let's take this thing day by day and focus on what we need. And obviously, she would need more than me at that time. But yeah, trying to slow things down and focus on us, I think, is the biggest thing that I'm learning right now. My wife and I, we are she's the brains and I'm the muscle. Like, she's very smart, very smart. She was a dietitian at Duke recently, and then switched into a different role. But she's wanted all over the country for her knowledge, and on nutrition. And for her, formulas work. Like, you understand this, you memorize this and this will give you this. Um, but what we understood real quickly is that whenever you have a child, it doesn't always work.
Nope.
You can read all the books in the world, doesn't always work. So what I've learned in that is, like, whenever things go wrong, um, I spend a good bit of time to say, hey, it's not your fault. Um, this is natural. We're going to get through it. We're going to figure it out. The child is growing. Everything's new to him. Everything's new to us, and in that it's been cool to watch the growth and how we start to trust each other, um, as a husband and wife, and then now watching us better understand our kid whenever we are, like, actually sitting back and allowing him to kind of lead the dance a little bit. Yes, we have knowledge of wrong and right, kind of, but there's some parts of it where you gotta figure out your child, um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of where I'm at right now. Still trying to figure out, like, I mean, he's going to be 3 months here tomorrow, and man, I love the little thing. I thought I was rough and tough, and then whenever he was born, I I boohooed like a baby. Like,
Mm-hmm.
probably one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen. And it's bittersweet. There's pain. There's a lot that goes through it, and um, my love for my wife through that, like, watching her give her all for her, and fall in love instantly with a being that was inside of her. It's just it's crazy, man. It's crazy. But going back to what you were saying, just I don't think fathers have conversations enough about what it means to be a father. Um, I know, obviously, ladies, moms, they'll have girlfriends that have been through that process, And whenever men talk, it's always about like laughing and joking about through the process, but we really don't talk about like our feelings. And
Mhm.
it's funny, we had someone over the other night, and I went to pick up TJ, and he just bawled. He did not want to have anything to do with me. And I handed him off to my wife. He was quiet. And our friend that was over, she asked, she goes, how does that make you feel? I was like, hey, it's kind of weird that you asked that, because no one really asked the dad, like, whenever your child does not want you, like, how does that make you feel? And um, yeah, it's tough sometimes, because sometimes you come home from work and you're excited about, being there for your child. It's just like,
Mhm.
I don't need you right now. I want mommy, or that feeling of like you're working all day. Does my child know me? You know,
Mhm.
uh, and yeah, it's tough. It's tough to deal with, but obviously there's more time in it that you get to grow and learn more about each other and whatnot. But at the beginning, like, it's tough knowing that you don't you. I mean, the mom has a lot of answers for his problems, um, and as the dad, like, we do too, but it's not the same, you know. So yeah, I just went down a rabbit hole, but
No, man.
yeah.
No, I appreciate that. And it's true. For some reason, we don't feel like we need to talk about our emotions enough, and I know in today's day and age, it's all about toxic masculinity, blah, blah, blah. But, in all reality, when you've got good friends that you can talk to about those real things, whether that be, future business opportunities, your current career, your family, being a dad, the feelings like what you were just mentioning of maybe today, TJ doesn't want to be held by dad. That's not something that's easily discussed because we just kind of like to push our emotions and compartmentalize a lot more than women do naturally. Men are
Mhm.
very good at compartmentalizing and just having different drawers. We're like, okay, we'll just shove that emotion in here and we won't think about it. Whereas women, they're more like a rubber band ball where everything is intertwined and you're not going to untangle that. Every emotion is intertwined with each other. And so unpacking those drawers is sometimes a little hard to do as men. And so it's definitely a good point that you bring up. And it's something that you'll learn. And I'm still not anywhere near perfect. Today's my daughter's birthday, so we're gonna be going out and yeah, she's 6. So it's crazy to think that she's 6, man. My youngest kid is 6. I'm like, where's the time gone? But yeah, so just making sure that she knows that she's loved, and you're not always going to be perfect. It's just impossible. You're not always going to be able to fulfill their needs, and sometimes you and your wife are not going to be able to fulfill his needs. Like that's just how it is. And um, I don't doubt that the things that you've overcome, again, that something that you brought up was kind of the statistics of where you came from, even if you hadn't had your accident.
Mhm.
You look at how many people, like, it's sad to me when I talk to people from our high school and to know how many people are dead or in jail or are already felons and they're not even 30. And it blows me away. And that's again why I wanted to have you on, because you've overcome so many obstacles. And I love seeing that you've traveled out west, that you've accomplished so many things with and without people there supporting you.
Mm. Yeah.
You beat the odds 100%. And not even that, you've exceeded them. And so I love that you were able to share. I know it's only a glimpse of your story, and we've only chatted for about an hour, but it was great catching up with you, and I really appreciate you hopping on, taking the time in your busy schedule to get on here and share your story,
Sure.
man. Is there anything else you want to leave with the audience?
Um, yeah, man, follow me social media. Um, Give me McCall. Pretty simple. I'm one of the few out there. Yeah, and always reach out. If you need anything, let me know. It's kind of my MO. I love people. I love helping people. So if you need anything, let me know.
Just don't ask for secret fishing holes.
Top secret. Top secret.
Oh, we didn't mention too. State's got you're gonna be your next side gig is gonna be the bass fishing coach, right, for the team.
I wish I was that good, you know. It's just a little fun thing I do on the side. But yeah, man, like I wish I knew that there's like college fishing.
Mhm.
Like that's awesome, man. It is sweet, and I haven't really taken the time, but I'd love to connect with. Do you have a coach? Like, how does that go? Like, yeah, I have so many questions. So
Mhm.
many questions. Pretty sure NC State they do have a team.
Mhm.
I think it's a club team though, and love to be able to look into that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, just go out, be a fly on the wall with you guys for a little bit.
Mhm.
You know,
The
so
trap though, man. It's just like with archery. I go and help out at the archery shop quite a bit, and they're like, if you ever want to be able to shoot your bow, don't ever get hired here. Don't work here. Like,
it's true. It's
you
true.
be a coach, you're not going to be able to do much except for coach. So, but yeah, for all you guys out there listening to, I found this out recently that there is actually college fishing teams. So I'm sure people that are actually like professional fishermen or do that instead of high school sports, they know that already. But if you didn't know that and you want to be a fisherman professionally, go check it out. From what I hear, NC State's got a really good team, even though, I'm a Tar Heels boy through and through. So
Oh
surprised you
man,
let your wife work at Duke too. Just finding that out. That's
we met whenever she was at that job.
mm,
Like I said, she's been everywhere. She was at UCLA before that.
that's crazy.
She did grad school at FSU, Florida State. Yeah, she's been everywhere, everywhere, and I look at it like it's a job at the end of the day. Yeah, we have our rivalries every now and then, especially when we
Mhm.
wrestled. And she would always be there at the duels because she knows all the guys on the team. But it's a job at the end of the day.
Yep, exactly. Cool. Awesome, man. Well, thanks again for your time. Guys, go follow Timmy or Tim. I keep saying Timmy, but professionally Tim over here. You go follow him on social media, look into his stuff, and go find the don't go scope out and Google the fishing holes that he's at, guys. Don't be that person. All right. Well, as I always say, guys, get out, live your life, and love it.